Okay, so we are on day 16, the animals and plants, seashore habitat. So this is our science lesson for today. So we're going to watch the story Where the Wild Things Are by Maurice Sendak, and then I'm going to read you the story Where Land Meets Sea by Alan Fowler. And in between we're going to do the activities, or you could do them on your own, it's up to you. Then we're going to watch the video, The Seashore Science, and then I'm going to show you what I did for the drawing activities because I think you guys would have a lot of fun inventing a sea creature. And then I have a quick little video of a hike on the beach for a little bit, which I think will be really relaxing and fun to see and pretend that we're on the beach on vacation. How much fun. Okay, so we're going to get started and we're going to watch Where the Wild Things Are.
Where the wild things are. The night Max wore his wolf suit and made mischief of one kind and another, his mother called him Wild Thing, and Max said, "I'll eat you up." So he was sent to bed without eating anything. That very night, in Max's room, a forest grew and grew and grew until his ceiling hung with vines and the walls became the world all around. And an ocean tumbled by with a private boat for Max. And he sailed off through night and day, and in and out of weeks, and almost over a year, to where the wild things are. And when he came to the place where the wild things are, they roared their terrible roars and gnashed their terrible teeth and rolled their terrible eyes and showed their terrible claws till Max said, "Be still," and tamed them with the magic trick of staring into all their yellow eyes without blinking once. And they were frightened and called him the most wild thing of all and made him king of all wild things. "And now," cried Max, "let the wild rumpus start!" Max said. And sent the wild things off to bed without their supper. And Max, the king of all wild things, was lonely and wanted to be where someone loved him best of all. Then all around, from far away across the world, he smelled good things to eat. So he gave up being king of where the wild things are. But the wild things cried, "Oh, please don't go! We'll eat you up! We love you so!" And Max said, "No." The wild things roared their terrible roars and gnashed their terrible teeth and rolled their terrible eyes and showed their terrible claws. But Max stepped into his private boat and waved goodbye and sailed back over a year and in and out of weeks and through a day and into the night of his very own room, where he found his supper waiting for him, and it was still hot.
So that is where the wild things are. Now we're going to move on to the activity, which came first. Okay, so we're going to look at these three pictures and see what happened first. We're going to drag the picture that we think came first into the yellow box. So, what came first? Max was made king of all the wild things? Max found his supper waiting for him? Or a forest grew in Max's room? What do we think came first? A forest grew in Max's room came first. So what happened next? Max was made king of all the wild things, or Max found his supper waiting for him? Max was made king of all wild things. And last, Max found his supper waiting for him in his room. Very good. So now I'm going to read Where Land Meets Sea to you, okay? And then we're going to do activity, fact or fiction. Many families spend summer vacations by the seashore. They head for wide, sandy beaches that are great for swimming, or surfing, or boating, or just lying in the sun. But there are other kinds of seashores besides sandy beaches. A seashore is any place where land meets sea or ocean. Some seashores are rocky. They may look lonely, yet be full of life. Animals and plants live in little pools, called tide pools, among the rocks. Steep cliffs can be found behind many rocky shores, or a cliff might rise directly out of the water. Some seashores are marshes, thick with tall reeds and other plants growing in the salty seawater. Great numbers of fish live in these salt marshes. Certain trees, such as mangroves, can grow in salt water. There are muddy seashores too. People dig for clams in mud flats or sandy beaches. Not all beaches have fine sand, the sand that feels so nice and soft under your feet when you run on it. There are pebbly and stony beaches. You wouldn't want to run barefoot on one of those. Crabs are at home on beaches as well as in the water. Some kinds of crabs run sideways. Gulls, pelicans, and many other birds fly and nest along shores. Pelicans have beaks with big pouches, which they use to scoop up fish. Seashores are always changing their shape. Waves rolling in from the sea wear away cliffs and make caves in the rock. That takes a very long time. Sandy beaches change much more quickly. Just one heavy storm can wash away most of a beach. Waves and wind shift sand from place to place. Sand may pile up to form a long offshore island called a sandbar. The bar then protects the shoreline from the waves. A big river can change a shoreline. The river carries silt, bits of rock and soil, which forms new land where the river meets the sea. This new land is called a delta. There are many ways to enjoy yourself at a seashore, whether it's sandy or rocky, muddy or marshy. Besides swimming or sailing, you can go fishing, collect seashells, or see how many different forms of animal life you can find. And many people feel good just breathing that sea air with its salty tang and listening to the roar of the waves. The end. So that was the book Where Land Meets Sea. Now we're going to do the activity Fact or Fiction. Okay, remember, fact means that something is true and fiction is something that is made up. So our first sentence is, a big river can change a shoreline. Is that fact or fiction? That is a fact. You can tame monsters with a magic trick. Can you really tame monsters with a magic trick? Is that a fact or fiction? So is that something true or is that something made up? You can tame monsters with a magic trick is fiction. A cliff might rise directly out of the water. Is this fact or fiction? That is a fact. A forest might grow in your room. Can forests really grow in your room? Is that true, which is a fact, or is it made up, a fiction? It is fiction. That's from our story. Very good. Now we are going to go and watch the video about the sea. Watch the video. We're going to listen for some important words. The words are camouflage, sand dunes, habitat, and tide pools. Okay, tide pools. So make sure you're listening for those important words when we watch the video. Okay, we're going to watch the video on seashore science. So make sure you're listening because we're going to answer some questions afterwards.
You ready? Let's go! Seashore science. What can you see by the seashore? You might see a sand castle, shells, or even a surfing dog. Many people go to the shore for summer fun. But there are animals and plants that call the seashore home all year long. The seashore is a habitat. It's where the ocean meets the land. But not all seashores look the same. Some seashores are sandy. How does all that sand stay in place and not get washed away by the waves? Sand dunes and beach grass help. Sand dunes are hills of sand. They protect the seashore from strong waves and wind. And beach grass helps keep dunes in place. The plant's roots grow deep into the sand and help hold the dune together. The seashore is a great habitat for many animals. A piping plover makes its nest right on the sand. But the sandy color of the plover's eggs is camouflage. This makes the eggs hard to spot in the sand. A hungry seagull that likes to eat bird eggs walks right by without seeing them. Look at that beautiful shell. Wait a minute. Is it moving? It's a hermit crab. Hermit crabs climb inside empty shells and carry them on their backs. The hard shell protects their soft bodies. Hermit crabs eat tiny fish and worms that they find in the ocean water around them. Not all seashores are covered in sand. Along a rocky shore, you might see piles of smaller rocks, tall cliffs, and tide pools. Tide pools are shallow pools of water on a rocky seashore. Waves crash and water washes up on the shore. When the water pulls back toward the ocean, some of it is left behind in the tide pool. They may not be deep, but tide pools are full of life. Mussels, seaweed, sea stars, sea urchins, and other fascinating creatures live there. As you explore the shore, watch out for jellyfish. You might find one in the water. Jellyfish sting small fish and crabs to catch and eat them. They sometimes sting people too. Whether the seashore is rocky or sandy, people like to visit it. You can play in the water as the waves crash. Just make sure lifeguards and other adults are nearby. You could play a game or fly a kite. You can build sand castles. Could you build one this big? You can search for sea glass, seashells, and small animals along the shore. You may even find a mermaid's purse. It doesn't belong to a mermaid. It is the case for the eggs of an animal like this. To you, the seashore might be where you spend a summer's day filled with sun, sand, and surf. But for the plants and animals that live there, it's a home with everything they need.
Okay, so that is about some stuff about the seashore. So let's go and answer some questions now. Okay, so number 1, a seashore habitat is A, where the ocean meets the land, B, deep under the ocean, or C, high up on land. A seashore habitat is A, where the ocean meets the land. Beach grass, A, stops the water from hitting the land. B, has roots that grow deep and keep sand dunes in place. Or C, hurts the seashore by pulling the sand apart. Beach grass is B, has roots that grow deep and keep sand dunes in place. Number 3, the what of piping plover eggs is camouflage against the sand? The bright red color, the sandy color, or the yucky smell? So what helps it keep it camouflage against the sand? The B, sandy color. 4, shallow pools of water on rocky seashores are called A, sand dunes, B, seagrass, or C, tide pools. It is C, tide pools. And our last question, why should you watch out for jellyfish? A, they might sting you, B, they have sharp claws, or C, they have skin that is camouflage. A, they might sting you. Very good. So now I'm going to show you the drawing activity that is listed under the videos. So if you go back to the main page, there's a drawing activity and it says do the activity. So you're going to click on it and you're going to come to this page. So it says invent a sea creature. You know real sea creatures, for example, fish, crabs, and jellyfish. Now invent your own. So you could give your creature a name and then draw what it looks like. Here are some things to ask yourself. Does it have fins, arms, legs, maybe all 3? Does it swim under the water or live on the seashore? What color is it? Is it a scary creature or a cute, cuddly one? So then you could write a few sentences, or you could just describe it to one of your family members. So I'm going to show you what I draw. I don't have a name for mine, but I'm going to show you the shapes and my idea behind it. So this is the one I drew. So I made a big circle for the body, and then I gave it legs. I gave 3 legs on each side, and I gave it a tail, and then I gave it a nice smiley face with some funny looking ears and antennas. And my creature um, lives on the land, but also can swim. So it lives on the seashore in the sand, and that's why it has its legs, so it could run really quick and bury itself in the sand. But it also has webbed feet that help it swim easier. And then the back of it is a shell with some spikes on it. And its tail helps it go really, really fast in the water. So this is my sea creature, and now go create your own. Before you create your sea creature, I thought it'd be cool to take a virtual hike on a beach. We're only going to look at it for like a minute or two, and I just want us to point out some things that we learned about in the video, okay? So here we're seeing seagulls, which this is their habitat, this is where they're living. We talked about cliffs being on beaches, and the water over time, all the waves keep hitting the rocks and make them as what they are now. So as you can see, this is a sandy beach. It's not a pebbly beach, or it doesn't have stones. So it's nice soft sand. So if you listen closely, you could also hear the seagulls and other birds chirping. Now, if we were to go a little into the waves, I bet you there would be lots of shells right there on the coast, which the waves bring in from deep in the ocean. So there on this cliff, you could see some seagrass that we learned about. And it looks like there's some tide pools in the distance. And as you see on these little dots here on the ground, those are shells. Over here too. Some might even be some crabs, we just can't see them this close up. So since we can't go to the beach right now, this is a great way to get an idea of what the beach is like, and we could see what we've been learning about in our lesson. Sometimes we also, well, we were talking about jellyfish, sometimes we see the white jellyfish come on shore, and they'll sit all along here, and as you're walking you gotta make sure you don't step on them because they're all jelly-like. And you can see the wind is taking the sand, which in the video talked about how the beaches are always changing because the wind and the water are moving the sand around. So on this beach we have the wind taking the sand and we have the waves hitting the sand. Well, if you want to look at it more, you could just go onto YouTube and type in virtual hike on a beach, and there's so many beaches you could look at. It's so pretty. And I hope you enjoyed your science lesson for the day.